Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of retrospective, looking at songs that I checked out back when I started the channel, specifically ones I was a little harsh on or might not have understood, and seeing if my opinion has changed on them, or if maybe I've acclimated to the specific style of music. Today we're going to be looking at Polyphia's G.O.A.T, G-O-A-T, greatest of all time. Now, back when I checked this out the first time, I was a bit harsh on it for its song structure. I enjoyed a lot of the technicality that went into the playing. I enjoyed some of the specific riffs themselves. I think I particularly loved the drumming, but the song just didn't come together to something that I felt was uh, cohesive, I say. So let's dive into this and refresh my memory on what's going on with this track, and we'll see what I think about it today. Yeah, we got some interesting detuning, some microtonal elements going on here. Yeah, I really love the closed hi-hat rolls in the middle of these riffs. It's really interesting to see all of these different guitar techniques thrown together in such a almost seamless pattern. Yeah, dude, that little drum fill. Yeah, getting a bit of funky slapping in there. Oh, and the drum lining up with the bass rhythm right there. Yeah, that was really nice. Yeah, a little bit of metric modulation going on. Yeah, that drummer's just straight nasty. Totally forgot to pop this up. We're gonna do that real quick. So yeah, I don't know that my opinion's going to change too strongly here. We're going to talk about a lot of the good because I definitely picked up some more stuff here. I've noticed, even looking at yesterday's Primus and the day prior, we checked out Cult of Luna. What I'm picking up from this music and what I'm hearing is quite a bit more detailed than it was with the stuff that I was doing in 2019, early 2020. I can tell that my listening ability and what I'm hearing has I've grown so much in that respect, and I think that's pretty awesome because I felt like I've been pretty static over the years, and going back to these songs and hearing new ideas. And hearing new concepts that I hadn't really been introduced to until starting this channel, and had some people in other uh, musical roles, producers or electronic music creators, uh, drummers, introduce me to new phrases or techniques, and I can start hearing that, and it's been a wonderful journey, and it's so cool to, like I said, to hear something like this. And there's some things I picked up on that I'm fairly sure I talked about last time, but there's definitely some things that I don't think I'd noticed or even heard last time I checked out this track, and I just think that's awesome. So, yeah, let's start with the positive. There's a lot of really cool things going on in here. I think I pointed out as many as I could, but I want to recap a little bit. First of all, this is just a Polyphia thing. We've checked out a couple songs from them on the channel already. I think we did this. We did, uh, I can't remember what the second one was. I know we've done at least two. Maybe we did three. Um, but it's just their ability, the guitarists, both of them, to integrate so many different techniques in such a seamless way within a riff. And it definitely gives them the Polyphia sound. I don't know if they're the first ones to do this, but at least to me, it was my entry point into this sort of guitar playing. But we have, the multi-finger playing. We have sweep picking. We have palm muted sweep picking to really get that really nice thunky arpeggiation that seems to be a key aspect of riff writing for these guys. Um, just slides, whammy work, and then just playing all over the neck, high notes, low notes, all over the place. They're using a very wide array of guitar techniques to create these extremely unique riffs that, like I said, at least to me, are very Polyphia. When I hear stuff like this is what comes to mind, this band. Um, and it's not even just the fact that they have the mentality to pull all of this together so seamlessly. It's not like we have, a sweep picking section and then a slide section and then, a whammy section. They're interweaved so well. It is just this real fluid idea of technique. You can tell that they're very comfortable with all of this guitar work and have no problem bridging the ideas together. Um, but I think what's even more fascinating is just how clean they're all integrated together. This is some highly technical and precise guitar playing, and it's done at such an expert level. And the same can be said for both other instruments, the bass and the drums, but for their respective techniques. The bass, first of all, that bass tone. Really hitting some nice wide fat sounds during the first couple of sections, and then when the bass gets their solo, just really digging into that depth and getting these fantastic slaps and pops. Pops specifically, I don't think there was too many slaps, so definitely the pops. And just getting these nice thunky sounds while integrating that into a nice melody idea. And of course, the drummer's just sick. I think I'd commented on the drummer more than anything, which is just uh it's wild. I feel like in the past half year, I've commented on drummers more than any other instrument, and I don't know what it is about them specifically that I've been gravitating to recently, but when there's a good drummer, I praise them. I talk about them so much. I love drumming, and I don't think that's ever really been a strong instrument for me. It's always just kind of been there, and I've just got this recent appreciation for them, I suppose. But yeah, the drumming is just sick. Every aspect of it. Um, it's played very much like an instrument. Uh, well, that's redundant, Brian. It's played very much like a melodic instrument. I've talked about in the past how drummers tend to move between two ideas, sort of melodic ornamentation writing and metronomic writing. And they're either laying down the time signature or the tempo for the band, or they're adding some embellishing ideas to the melody instruments. And in this one, I don't really feel like the drums are doing either, but they're also kind of doing both. The drums do keep a groove throughout, but the entire band is also highly rhythmic riffs as well. So the drums do not need to. There's not a requirement or a necessity, I should say, for the drums to lay down anything rhythmic, especially when you have stuff like the those palm muted arpeggiations in the guitars that are played within other highly rhythmic notes, some staccato stuff, some accented stuff. The guitars themselves and the bass are also laying down groovy rhythmic ideas that work well at creating the sense of time. So the drums don't have the necessity of being pigeonholed into this role, and I think it really shines with the flexibility of the drummer. Yes, there are elements to the drumming that if you hone in on it, you're going to get that metronome. All right? But it's it's more subtle. I think that metronome aspect is usually underplayed against some of the more fancy ornamental ideas and drum patterns, the fills, right? Which is an interesting word. Usually we use a drum fill to fill in space or fill in time at the end of a passage to introduce the next one. But this one, not much to fill in. This is a very busy song almost at all times. It's not so much a drum fill as it is a drum addition, playing on top of or with or against rhythmic ideas that are going on in the bass and the guitars. But the one thing that just gets me, and it's kind of a hip hop thing, which kind of goes along with some of the undertones of the track. It kind of has a hip hop feel to it altogether, and I think a lot of that comes together both from the synth work, which I'm probably not going to talk too much on because I was paying attention to a lot of the musicianship in the instruments. I wasn't really paying too much attention about that atmospheric synth stuff. I'll try to touch on it, but I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it, unfortunately. There is a lot of closed, fast hi hat hits, which to me is a very hip hop sound. Now, I also do not have a lot of experience with hip hop, so I could be off. Maybe I've only listened to some popular mainstream hip hop, and that closed hi hat sample sound is popular in popular music, but maybe it's not as prolific throughout, the fringe or non-mainstream hip hop scenes. But at least to me, that closed hi hat sound, really fast rhythms, not just keeping the beat, but actually doing some fancy 16th note or eighth note kind of stuff on it. To me, kind of gives it a hip hop feel, and being that it's so prominently done throughout the song with sort of that chill groove stuff, the whole song gives me a hip hop feel. And I think it's really interesting to kind of blend uh, the hip hop elements with some of the classical and jazz elements that are going on musically, harmonically, and then also a lot of the rock guitar techniques that are being used in the guitar. And all of it's coming together to create this interesting genre amalgamation that is very Polyphia. And it kind of goes along with the guitar technique and how they string along ideas, I can see this being an evolution of some of the math rock stuff we checked out. Um, Toe and Chan, Covet, uh, what was that? The Fine Constant? Is that what they were called? I don't remember now. It's kind of disappointing. I think I enjoyed that. Anyways, I can see this being an evolution of that genre. It's bright. It's not heavy, but it is technical. It kind of has some jazzy elements pushed into highly technical rhythmic playing, and I can, like I said, I can see a lot of similarities between the two. But there's also this very clear divide: what is math rock and what is whatever Polyphia is doing. It's a very unique sound to them. Um, and again, I want to put this caveat out there. I don't know if they're the first ones to do it, but as far as I've heard, they're the only ones to play like this. I've heard covers of them. I've heard people who are playing in this style, but it's usually, at least to me, seems to be inspired by Polyphia. So I'm more than open to hear some context about this style of playing, if it has a genre name, if Polyphia created it, or maybe they took something that was close and just popularized it. They were the ones that made it big on YouTube or whatever, TikTok, whatever, however Polyphia got big. I mean, because this song's got 22 million views. They are not a small band. Um, yeah, I'm open for all sorts of information regarding the genre and the origins of this band and their sounds. But at least to me, like I said, there's this very clear divide between the inspirations that I can hear in this song and this song. I can see the lineage, but there's just a wide gulf between the two. And for that, I really can't discredit them. It is highly technical, it is groovy, and it is unique. And those are the three areas of praise that I would definitely give them. Also performance. It is hyper precise and they just nail it every aspect of this. It is just done very well. Now, the little bit of criticism. Song structure. And this is why I said I don't know that my opinion has changed too much here. I can see a little bit more song structure here, or I can see a little bit more of the framework of the song than I think I did last time I checked it out, 18 months ago or whatever. Um, we have the intro section, then we have a slight variation on it, which is pretty cool. They have a variation on a theme. Then we have the solo block. And everybody gets a chance to solo, I think. I question this because the two guitarists, well, the one guitarist solo was very chord based, so it provided a contrast to the heavily rhythmic single note stuff that the main riff is based off of, but it also doesn't feel very rock solo-y. It kind of has some, well, I was going to say it kind of has some jazz solo elements to it, but even then, your chord stuff is going to be withheld for, uh, well, for being the rhythm section. You might put some chords in your solo, but for the most part, it's not going to be a strong aspect of the solo itself. Not necessarily because there's any rule against it, just traditionally speaking, that's how it ends up. So it feels almost like a rhythm guitar or a second guitar line that's being played during a solo section, and it's interesting to me. I'm gonna call it a solo because it's in the solo block, but it does not tradition. It doesn't feel like a traditional solo to me, which just it intrigues me. I think it's very interesting if that is what the guitarist, assuming that this is a solo section, if that's what the guitarist wanted to play as a solo. It's an interesting choice. And like almost everything else with the band, it's unique. And once again, I can't fault people for being unique. They're trying something new, even if I don't think it works well, it's different. But then we have the drum solo, which was excellent. We have the bass solo, which was excellent. And when it came back around to the dude in the hoodie, his solo was very, very close to the main riff. And at the moment, I thought we had exited the solo section. Like the camera focused on him, just him. He was walking towards the camera down the church, and I was like, okay, it's his solo time now. And then he played something very reminiscent of the main riff, and I was like, maybe the solo block's over, and we're moving into the next section. And that kind of didn't happen either. So it was like a solo section, but he was repeating a lot of the same stuff. So again, another really interesting choice to utilize so much of the verse in the solo, assuming once again, this part of the song is dedicated to give all four members a solo moment. The bass solo was definitely very solo-ish. It was new composition. Same thing with the drums. Very solo oriented, it was a new composition. It's interesting though, because like I said, with the one guitarist, it's not a very solo oriented idea, but it is new material. And with the other guitarist, it was solo oriented, but it was not necessarily new material. So just really interesting ways to play around with solo composition, assuming, again, that is a solo block and all four members were getting a solo. I could be reading the structure completely wrong, and those were not solo moments. And then we finish out the song with a variation on the core theme again. And in this sense, we have a small gradual growth of a core theme written in a jazz idea of AABA, which is verse, verse, solo, verse. And there is some really cool things about that. But there's also going to be some things that, now that I'm talking through this though, okay, so I'm starting to see some of this stuff. All right. My big issue when I listened to this last time was that I felt the song didn't have a cohesive thread tying everything together, that it felt like a disjointed set of ideas. Now, if I were to look at a jazz song, especially a live one, not something that's been, well, I mean, even pre-recorded stuff tends to be improv solos in the recording booth, but definitely a live showing. You're going to a jazz club, you're listening to a big band, and here's the thing. You got your two opening verses. They're going to have very similar ideas tying them together. You're going to enter your solo section, and anything goes. It's live, so first of all, if there's mistakes, there's mistakes. They're part of the song now. But even if it's played, perfectly, most of the notes are within the key signature. There's a couple colorful, spicy notes added in that are outside the key signature but add color or flavor. And then we have, two or three soloists, and they all have different takes on this key, on this chord progression. And then we bring it back to the finale, we do the verse again, and it feels like the beginning. And we have this middle section that feels like the rest of the song, but is also very interesting aspects. And each section is very different from the rest of it, and it's very different from the main verse, unless they're going to be incorporating elements of the verse line into it. When I think about how I usually talk about song structure and songs having cohesive DNA that ties everything together, I'm coming at it from a very classical / rock and metal idea. And I think I could have just stopped at classical, but being that we listen to so much rock and metal, I think it's important to incorporate that idea as well. Because on the surface, this is a rock song. But structurally, this is a jazz song. And I analyzed it as a rock song last time I checked it out because I didn't see the jazz DNA in there. And what I meant when I was talking about how jazz is structured and how cohesion can work within a jazz song, um, I'm showcasing that sometimes when I apply classical composition ideas to the rock and metal music that we check out on this channel, it doesn't always mean that it's applicable. I've said some songs in the past have felt disjointed because they don't have elements that work well together, and it makes the song feel less cohesive and less like a single idea, and more like a slew of disjointed concepts. And to me, that hurts the song's listenability to me as a listener. That's my personal bias on those songs. And that was or is my opinion on those songs. However, I listen to a lot of jazz. I grew up listening to jazz. I've played a ton of jazz, trumpet. I've been in big bands. And it never really dawned on me until just now that my perspective on cohesive songwriting, while I have always admitted is a preference, I have never said that these songs are bad for feeling less cohesive to me. But I'm now realizing that it's not necessarily applicable to everything, because it definitely does not work for jazz, especially when some soloists decide to get real outside the box. And I've heard some really good solos that are quite a bit divorced from what's going on in the main riff, and could really be its own idea outside of the song, outside of the solo section. And I think that's what happened here. Is I applied theory and preferences to this song the first time I listened to it that was not meeting the song on its own terms. This is like jazz. It's not supposed to feel 100% cohesive. This is not a constructed song from start to finish to be a singular idea. It is a chance for all four members to shine in whatever element they feel strongest in. And with that said, we're going to have four different takes on this key or chord progression. And they may not sound cohesive. They may not sound together. I would say that the bass works well in tandem with the main riff. I'd say the drums work well in tandem with the main riff. And of course, the guitarist in the hoodie, he utilized a lot of elements from the main riff in his solo, but also incorporated some new ideas that made it feel very distinct from what the other guitarist was doing, what the bassist was doing, and allowed each of these areas or each of these members to showcase their own talents. And much like a jazz song, that's not necessarily going to mean that it's cohesive on a storytelling, on a narrative level. The song is going to feel disjointed in that aspect. However, everybody's staying in key, and the purpose of the song is to create a bunch of solo sections, so it works well in that manner. So where does this bring me now? Now that I've spoken about a 3-minute song for 25 minutes, half an hour. Much like the first time I listened to it, I enjoy the grooviness and technicality of it, 100%. I am now coming around to the idea of the structure of it. I think it is a good song to showcase who they are, especially since I gotta look it up now. The other song that we looked at from Polyphia, they were like in a room with mannequin arms or something. OD. OD, I commented on that the narrative storytelling in the melodic lines had a stronger cohesion to it, creating a song that felt more unified. I don't remember anything specific about it. I don't remember anything past that, but I remember being more impressed with the melody writing in OD than I was in G.O.A.T. However, what I'm realizing now is that they're two different songs with two different goals. I do think that as a casual listener, I do enjoy stuff like OD more. And I probably should dig into Polyphia after this because now I'm highly intrigued. But this song still does not work for me on a casual level. My appreciation for it has risen greatly, but it's still something that I enjoy the groove to more than I enjoy the song to. So I would not mind if it came on. I would never tell someone to turn it off if it came on the radio or something. I'd probably even still groove to it because it is a groovy song and that drum is tasty. But I don't think I'm going to go out of my way to check this one out specifically on my own time. I would reach for other Polyphia songs. So, very interesting. And it's very strange that I didn't pick up on the song structure last time. I'm a bit disappointed in myself. When was that even? We checked this out in... Oh, geez. Looks like December... something. Mid-December, maybe? December 19th. Yeah. So my channel would have been around for a month and a half. Interesting. It's interesting how much the brain changes and gets better at something. Actually, any muscle would get better at something the more you use it. Doing this for 2 years though, and I'm hearing a lot more of the stuff than I did 2 years ago. Very cool. Anyways, those are my thoughts on Polyphia. Fantastic musicianship, interesting, riff creativity, individual idea creativity in all of them: bass, guitar work, drum work. And also, I love the influences of classical and jazz and rock and metal, like hip hop. There's a lot of stuff in here. They're combining a lot of different ideas into a singular, very unique sound. But the song still just does not work for me as something interesting after the novelty is worn off. I think that's the big thing. Like I said, listening to this once, twice, maybe 3 times, I'm still really blown away by the musicianship, and it is a song that seems to be purpose built to display everybody's musicianship. But I'm not sure it has lasting power for me personally, and I would more likely reach out and listen to other Polyphia tracks rather than G.O.A.T if I was in the mood for their music. This is where you guys come in though. Hit me up with your comments. Let me know what you think of this. Let me know if you think this is the greatest of all time, or if maybe this bounces off of you as well. Maybe you don't like Polyphia at all. Maybe you just prefer other songs like I do. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know. And like I said, any information about this genre, its name, its origin, if Polyphia made it, or if maybe they just adapted it and popularized it. Like I said, to me, this sound is very Polyphia. I haven't really heard anybody else like it, but I also have very limited exposure to this because I'm pretty sure they're the only band I've heard that plays like this. Let's see, above the comment section, there's a description box. In there's a link for Linktree. It's a menu with everything related to the channel. You can support me through Patreon, join the community Discord, email me, follow me on Twitter, a bunch of other stuff. It's all in there. Above the box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. We got one more video coming out 4 minutes ago. We're going to look at Castle in the Sky Part 2. We checked out Part 1 yesterday. I'm pretty excited to see how this band makes a sequel to a song that I absolutely fell in love with. Tomorrow we'll be returning back to retrospective stuff and checking out another special selection after that. That'll be at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.